Incredible Michaelites webinar 14. So as always, we have got different Michaelites who have achieved big in their life. Today we have got another 3 sets of Michaelites, and the first one is Mr. Raghvendra Singh, 1975 batch, Mr. Ranjanesh Sahai, 1977 batch, and Mr. Praveer Sinha, 1977 batch as well. Knowing we have already reached the 14th webinar, and it has been a journey from June 7th. We have seen a total of 41 Michaelites on this platform, and today again, as always, we have got the flow of the webinar is we'll go to the school stories with our own most common man of the St. Michael's, Mr. Banerjee. Welcome, sir. And post it, we'll go to the some anecdotes if someone wants to share on, and then on the professional side, we'll speak to each one of them who have done something incredible in their life. And then at the end, we'll have the 2 words for all the Michaelites and the Incredible Michaelites on a whole. So we'll go to Amber sir, and we'll see how the school stories shape up. Amber sir, over to you.
Okay, thank you, Nishant, and a hearty welcome to the 3 incredible Michaelites, Ranjanesh Sahai, Praveer Sinha, and Raghvendra Singh. And I think perhaps, this is the first time that we are having 3 Michaelites who are very, very close to one another, as far as the batches were concerned. But before we begin, I would just like to, just share with you maybe a little bit of a sad, thing, that one of the very young Michaelites belonging to the 1987 10th and 1989 12th batch, Mr. Vishwanath Agarwal. So after battling it out with cancer, very bravely and very hopefully, he passed away just a couple of days back on Tuesday, the 20th of this month. So Vishwanath Agarwal belongs to that particular family that owns the Ramakrishna cloth store in New Market, which was quite a popular joint. So, well, may God bestow that eternal peace, all right, to Vishwanath, and of course all that strength and fortitude to the whole family to bear this irreparable loss. It's very, very sad when youngsters, go away, and I always feel, oh, that's not fair. That's not fair. Right. So yes, on this note, then again, now we come back to the Incredible Michaelites episode. I read somewhere, okay, आंखों में है नींद बड़ी पर सोने को वक्त नहीं, दिल है गमों से भरा हुआ पर रोने को भी वक्त नहीं, सारे नाम मोबाइल में है पर दोस्ती के लिए वक्त नहीं, अरे गैरों की क्या बात कहें जब अपनों के लिए ही वक्त नहीं. But this platform, Incredible Michaelites, and all the Michaelites, they prove this completely wrong. So we have time for each other, and Incredible Michaelites bring all these old friends together. So a very hearty welcome to this wonderful trio. And we begin with the senior most, well, Raghvendra, 1975, senior Cambridge. All right, and Raghvendra, I think you came over from Xavier's. So unlike these 2, all right, you are not the original Michaelite.
Yes.
You are, like me, Xaverian turned Michaelite. Right. So now, when you joined, I think Father Murphy was there. And then very soon afterwards, I think maybe in just a couple of months and so on, I mean, in September 1972, Father Murphy passed away. So how did you kind of feel when you came from Xavier's to St. Michael's, and then, you saw Father Murphy handling that wonderful, that merger so beautifully, so coolly, so calmly, and yet so firmly. And then, Father Murphy passing away. And then a person with a lot of dynamism, but different, almost a different school. That is Father Harland came in. Yes, and I can see Raghvendra smiling, and I'm sure now it's over to Raghvendra.
when we joined in 1966 in class 2, and that was Xavier's. Father Murphy was the principal, and my the first 6, 7, 8 years, I was hardly with my parents. I was actually brought up by my grandparents, and I was dropped into Patna from Balia, which is about 100 odd miles from Patna. And Xavier's those days, let me tell you, was quite a cultural shock for me. I mean, I didn't know English. I was from Balia, and I kept on failing, a couple of years. But Murphy would always tell my parents, these are days for him to sort of play Mr. Singh or Mrs. Singh. That's my parents. And don't you worry, he'll gradually pick up. So he actually promoted me despite, my F9s in almost all the subjects, except for perhaps Hindi, where I did very well. So I was actually quite beholden to Murphy. And plus, he had such a personality. I mean, he was girthy. And even if I could get a smattering of English, I could comprehend, but his accent, etc., I couldn't really make out. So, all in all, I was in awe of him. And then he left. And then we joined him again. So it was some kind of a homecoming when I went to St. Michael's. But all the old Zavarians who were there, I don't know, I don't really want to rub the old Michaelites the wrong way, but gave me the feeling that, look, it's the Zavarians who have brought that kind of standard to St. Michael's, that kind of a thing. I mean, it's not me who said it.
We were.
It's the seniors. It's the seniors who would tell me. And then, of course, came Harlan. Now, Harlan was like a machine who would sort of ride roughshod. He had a lot of rough edges to his personality. He was not as rounded as Father Murphy was. So therefore, we did see Harlan for a substantial number of years before passing out from there, and most formative years at that. But somehow, when it is looking back, one looks at Father Murphy's tenure with a rather great sense of affection. Not to say that one didn't interact. One interacted very closely with Harlan, but each one has its own dimension in terms of personality.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Raghvendra. And one more thing, as I was discussing with you, and you were so frank and so forthright about it, when I asked you about academics or co-academics or co-curriculars and sports, well, you gave me an answer which made me feel, I would say, somewhat proud in that sense, that we all belong to a school, that even though some of us may not have so-called excelled in school and may not have become that heroic, and yet what we absorb there, due to the teachers, due to the help rendered by the teachers and by our own seniors, by observing them and also observing our classmates, our batchmates, and later on, all this talent when, you went to college, or, much later, when you, became, when you cleared the UPSC and so on. And then suddenly it would have been a very different Raghvendra altogether. And was that a surprise to yourself? Or sometimes, youngsters of their own accord, they choose to maintain a slightly low profile when they are in school. So, remember, I'm sure you'd like to remember some of the teachers and, some of your classmates, batchmates, and seniors who would have definitely influenced you.
Yes, I mean, I I would interact with teachers even after school hours because obviously every parent wants that his ward should do well. I wasn't doing well, so they would put me on to tuitions. So, so after school hours, I would troop into Raj's flat, or at times Mr. Shah, Rafael Shah, earlier on when I was in Xavier's, or Robin Francis, because he would teach physics. And one sentence of Robin Francis I remember: "Meet me behind the class when I'm empty." Some such thing like, like that. So,
Yeah.
so yes, of course. Since I would be spending most of my waking hours with some of the teachers, the subjects in which I was very weak in, um, they did. I spent a lot of time with them. How much I imbibed, I don't know because I continued to not doing very well in it.
Well,
So
that's so
somehow,
humble
sort
of
of,
you.
sort of got out with a C3 or a C4 or something like that. But yes, the classes which I used to like were the classes which Father Cox would take or Father Zubriki would take. Um, because Father Cox had just come back after a long break in United States where, he had seen Godfather 1. And then he would tell us the story of, or perhaps it was not made into a film, but the book had come out. So he would tell us the story of Godfather, and Zubriki would go on to some other storybook and things or novel of that time. And at the end of the year, we suddenly realized we hadn't done the course. So this is also there. So those guys are also equally interesting, and they made class very interesting.
And did you make use of were you in the hostel?
No, I wasn't actually. My
Okay, all right.
father
Okay.
was a
So,
resident of.
and did you get the chance to make use of Father Cox's casual library?
Oh yes, I did very
Yeah.
much, very much.
Okay,
Very
great.
much.
So that was wonderful. I mean, like this is I think Raghvendra epitomizes, okay, and a great example, like when you are in a good school, you don't have to be, you don't have to be a 5-pointer always
Yes,
to excel in life later on. Okay.
yes.
I mean, you've just got to be in that good school and absorb the way things, Raghavendra absorbed. So fantastic, Raghavendra. Thank you so much. And of course, we all owe a lot of debt, to our teachers in the lower classes, because I always remember, the movie Mera Naam Joker, the first part.
Oh
Okay.
yes.
And
Oh yes.
where, lots of these young lady teachers, who would become the harmless victims of our infatuation. I still remember my maths teacher in standard 2, and I'm sure, my classmates would bear me out. Miss Cecilia Cowell. Okay, she was a relative of Mrs. Judy Cowell. And she was, our maths teacher. And she used to, literally say, okay, you are my best friend. And I was so zapped, okay, in standard 2. I mean, and then I felt that I was never the same student, ever in school after, Cecilia Cowell, said bye-bye to me and I said bye-bye to her after, leaving standard 2. So there were these, wonderful memories of these, teachers who really tolerated us so well. Now, let's move on to, one cricketer and one footballer. Thank you, Raghavendra. So now
Thank
I'll
you.
just, with your permission, move on to Ranjanesh.
Of course.
Yeah, thank you. Ranjanesh,
Yes.
well, yes, so you had a lot to speak about, and I'm sure you have a lot to speak about, your sporting achievements, in St. Michael's, and also your sporty friends, okay, in St. Michael's, your sporty seniors, your sporty classmates, and so on. So Ranjanesh, just over to you, okay? And Praveer also happens to be your classmate, so you can moderate each other. Why have Amber Banerjee at this point of time when you recall, those lovely memories of St. Michael's, the teachers, principal, and so on. So I think both of you, belong to, that Harland era when Father Norman Harland was at the zenith, at the peak of his glory in St. Michael's. Okay, so over to you, Ranjanesh. And Praveer, yes, Ranjanesh was the cricketer and Praveer was, as I'm told, cricketer turned footballer. You played very good cricket till class 8, all right? And then I think, Praveer, you shifted and focused all your attention to football. So over to you, Ranjanesh, and maybe over to you, Praveer, as well. Okay, over to you, both of you.
Thank you, Ambassador. Well, my entry into the school was, the initial phase was something similar to Raghvendra sir. My father was in government job in government of Bihar, and I was moving in and out of various districts in Bihar and had very little exposure to Patna in terms of stay there, because though most all my relatives were there only, and one used to come and have a peek at the city once in a while. And so coming to St. Michael's, it drove a sense of awe, because the school was well known all over the state, and I had seen some very illustrious seniors who had done right in the initial stages of their life. They had done very well in their lives. So there was some awe and a sense of achievement when one got admission in St. Michael's, and there Father Murphy was there, the angelic soul who would take you in your arms, and you would feel as if, yeah, you were being taken care of. And Father Murphy, the first time I met him, he spoke to me about my cousins who had studied in Michael's and made me feel at home right on day one. And as we just discussed, he was a different genre as compared to the next principal with whom we spent most of the time, Father Harland. And of course, Father Harland was a disciplinarian of a different metal. Father Murphy always used to smile and cajole, and Father Harland would not hesitate to use the spare the rod and spoil the child dictum he used to adopt once in a while. And of course, right in the initial classes, one was a very, very keen student, and one would do very well. One was in that A1, A2 category, and then slowly as the school got on you, and the friends became more friendly and more fun came in life, and one started sliding towards those C3, C4, and P7, that kind of a thing, and a little bit of F9 also once in a while. But we had some real great teachers. I remember in class 4, 4B was my class, if I remember. Yeah, 4B was the class, and Mrs. Roberts, the Hindi teacher, was our class teacher. And she was a teacher in Hindi, but she had an excellent command over English also. And she used to be the anchor for us for the various elocution contests and debates that used to happen in those times. And I remember pitted alongside Arvind Singh, who knew volumes and volumes of Parshuram Ki Pratiksha, and would always get the first prize, while we would struggle for second and third prize in the elocutions contest. And every time that we got a second prize, Mrs. Roberts' heart would be broken. She would say, "Tum logon ne itna mehnat kiya tha. Ye baar Arvind ko kyun mil jata hai prize?" And then there were the DeCostas, Andy Costa, ma'am, and Rocky DeCosta. These teachers we remember. Then there were two sisters, B Kaur and S Kaur.
Yes, of course.
They were also Judy Cowell was once on one side, and B Kaur and S Kaur were on the other side. So if they talk nicely to you, you'll feel very nice about you when you go home. Mr. Rosario was there, a very flamboyant character and a very interesting person. Mrs. Rosario, a paragon of modesty and good mannerism. Then in the later classes, can I go ahead on the later classes also?
Yes,
sir?
yes.
So then we had Mr. Thomas, Mr. Mishra, the Hindi teacher, Mr. Robin, the evergreen Mr. Robin Francis, who in fact, incidentally, I think he sent a message to Nishant today also. He's been closely following this particular forum. Then, of course, the evergreen Mr. Raj. Maths to me in class 6, 7, seemed a very tough subject. But once Mr. Raj took over our maths guardianship, one felt this is child's play. And he was a teacher who could really, make you feel very comfortable with the subject. One person I remember in this context is Mrs. Marie MacDonald. Marie MacDonald was a complete versatile teacher. I remember she taught us geography. Later on, she went on to teach literature and I think some other subjects also.
Yes.
And,
I can't agree with you more, Ranjanesh. Miss Marie MacDonald was a very versatile teacher, a very versatile person.
Right.
I mean, like she was so good at geography, fantastic, with English language and literature. And then she was fantastic with biology also.
yes.
Okay, because that's what,
That's,
yeah. And then, in those days, a lady with first class general knowledge. I mean, you could even talk politics to economics, anything with her. Yes, you're absolutely right. You use the right word. Very versatile.
Sir, I remember in our class in the ICSE, I think the average marks for geography was something like 75 or 80 maybe. Because even while we were taking the civil services for prelims, we used to find people reading fat books and guides and this kind of a thing. In geography, I don't think we had to even see a piece of paper. So good was her grounding in the subject. And of course, Father Cox and his casual library, I mean, that everyone on this forum talks about. Father Cox was a great teacher also. He would walk into our class and drop some very difficult word. And they said, tell me the meaning. And then somebody would answer, and then he would tell her about how that word got evolved. And he was, I'm a person of class, real class. And his casual library, I mean, everyone would vouch for that no records of the books being given were taken ever. And he would just, you show him the book, he'll tell you about the book, just a little, 2-3 sentences. At times when you picked up the wrong book, he would say, oh, you're going to read this. Oh, it's a tough nut to crack. I think you take some other book. So that kind of a personal attention we used to get. And another person who was very close to us, particularly for sports, was Jeff DeCosta. Mr. Jeff was a person, I remember, we always used to lose our cricket matches to St. Xavier's because St. Xavier's had a very strong cricket team. Though in our times, when we were in class 4 and 5, Dilavesh Hoda, Muhammad Ali, Manawar Ali, Pramod Singh, those were great cricketers in Michael's. Aloysius Das, a great footballer, athlete and cricketer. All these people were there, but in our times, we were on the weaker side where cricket goes. But then we won a match against Xavier's. And of all the people, Brother Burrows, who was the scout master and a very tough person by temperament, he called us over to his small room and then poured beer in it was a big cup. He poured beer and said this cup should go around. I mean, that was something in St. Michael's, one thought that the citadel of purity has been broken with that. So those were lovely days. And I think I should give Praveer some opportunity to pitch in because I've already spoken a lot. Praveer?
Thanks. First of all, thanks Nishant and Amber for coming up with this brilliant idea. Of course, more than the incredible Michaelites, it's the incredible St. Michael's which is there. And I think all of us owe it to our school for whatever we are today. Both Raghvendra and Ranjanesh mentioned, and in the earlier episodes also, I have seen that how people have come and affectionately spoken about St. Michael's and how they have very fond memories. And I think what I was trying to reflect that St. Michael's was really an incredible school. You don't come across a school like that, which builds the type of character that it has built for all of us who have been to that great school. Whether it was the love and affection of Father Murphy, or the teachers, or the care and forgiving nature that was there of all the teachers, and how they, in spite of all the naughty things and all the wrong things that we used to do at that time, including getting infatuated and falling in love with many of them, they would still tolerate us and give us the helping hand. And I think that's what is the unique thing that the school brought about. And this was consistent. This was not a one-off thing. This was not something that happened with just one teacher or one principal, but consistently. And Ranjan mentioned so many names, and they were all my teachers also, as of so many else who were in our batch and senior and junior batches. So I think it was a great opportunity for all of us in terms of learning whatever we could imbibe. The second great thing about the school was we had a great set of people, students who were there. Ranjan mentioned about some of the names, and for us, we were, as when I joined in 4th standard in 1970, we were in awe of these seniors. I remember we used to have at least I used to have very smattering understanding of English. And there was a play, The King and I, and Salo and Prashant Panjiar, I think.
Lawrence Salo.
Pankaj Prakash and Lalil Silo.
Yeah. Yeah, and we didn't understand, at least I didn't understand anything what was happening. But the whole halo around how it was being done and how they were conducting themselves. So I think in everything, and whether it was in sports or it was in debate or extracurricular or in academics, I remember all the 5-pointers who were there, and for us they were like God. 5-pointer, Siddharth Sinha and Kapil Bawa and Arun Singh and all. This is ultimate. You can't have anything better than this. But that's how it is. That's where we learned, and that was the citadel where we went and learned from every one of them. Similarly, the sports part of it, I think we played virtually every sport over there. I remember I used to stay in the hostel. In the winters, we used to play hockey. In the summer, we used to play football. Cricket used to be there in winter. And then I remember we also played baseball. So if I tell people now...
Handball.
Handball we played baseball in St. Michael's in Patna, Digha. They say, what the hell are you talking? There is baseball in Patna. But then we played baseball over there. And we had, I think, 11 fields over there. And sports was an integral part of our development. So again, the collaboration, the team building, this understanding of each other was phenomenal in terms of. And then the fun part of it. I remember we all used to look forward to the spring fete that we used to have. Not only we would plan for it in terms of what good clothes we need to wear, but also the saloon that we need to go and get our hair dried for that. Similarly, we used to have socials. I don't think something like this used to happen in many places. And we were in the 10th standard or 11th standard having the social poolside party. As hostelers, the poolside party was a very, very big thing. And again, something where the fun part of it was there. Another area that I think was great was also the very many support services who were there. And Ranjan mentioned about many of the names who were teaching us. But Mrs. Thomas, she used to be there in the hostel. I remember we would go and take bath, and boys being boys, whatever. We would not take bath in the sense we would just put some water on our hair and come, and she would then touch our fingers to see whether we really taken bath or not. Or Sunday morning we would go and get our nail cut. Or Sunday morning was also haircut day. So if you are in the hostel, she would walk through the aisle and she would see whose hair is. And the katora cut haircut, which we used to have, was something that we would detest, but I don't think we had any choice. So I think all in all, it was a great experience for all of us. I have the best memories and the best friends even now from school. I think we got a little spoiled also in school in terms of having such good friends who are always ready to forgive you for whatever pranks you have done. The trust that they have and you have with them, and you can go to them at any time and ask for any help, any favor. So I think this is a great place, and I have very fond memories. They say that you talk about school and this smile comes on your face. So you've already melted and ready to do anything for anyone from the school.
Very true.
Great memories.
Thank you, thank you. Just one quick question and a very quick answer. Was it Silo's wonderful skills in football that made you really give up cricket when you were till class 8, such a good player or a good opening batsman, as I'm told, and take up football more seriously? Very quick answer before Nishant takes over.
Yeah, but then I did play cricket also. I played for school and I played.
Okay, you played both the games for the school. Wow,
and
wonderful. That's great. Yes. I mean, like, yes, wonderful, because that's what, quite a few of our classmates used to do. Pramod Singh, George Joseph, you'll remember. Yeah, so they were, very keen footballers, cricketers, and hockey players as well. There were students who played all the 3 games for the school. All right, I felt very happy and mighty pleased to play cricket for the school, and maybe a bit of tennis later on. Okay, thank you so much, Praveer. Thank you, Ranjanesh. Thank you, Raghvendra, for taking us down memory lane of St. Michael's, the wonderful corridors of St. Michael's. And it is over to Nishant now to take up, as I say, the adult stuff. Over to you.
Thank you, Ambassador. Thank you. So we'll start with Raghvendra Singh, 1975 batch. He's currently the Secretary of Culture. Served at many positions, including the DG National Archives. And we just learned that it does never happen that a retired person gets a full secretary role. And Raghvendra has been awarded as the Secretary of Culture at this moment. So we're really proud of you guys. Thank you. And we want to start with you with all your work on culture and things. We want to understand, can you elaborate your role as the DG National Archives, which you have served earlier?
Can I ask you one thing, Nishant? Are you related to Paritosh and Pritish Dayal?
No, we are.
No, you're not. Okay, good. Because I had an anecdote to say, but this was about a lady who was related to them. So I thought in case I narrated. So coming back to National Archives. So I was actually in agriculture. And then suddenly the orders come out and I'm posted to archives, but strange are the ways of the government. So I landed up in National Archives, and usually for a civil servant, a posting like this, serving civil servant is considered as if, it's a very sedate kind of a thing. So I landed up there, and suddenly I realized that having been interested in history as a subject and modern Indian history at that, which is my subject, I mean, I have lots to do over there. And then I started scouring the stacks. The stacks are about 146 kilometers long in the National Archives. And, getting into the stacks and getting a feel of it itself is crazy. Because this place got populated, the building which you see on Janpath, this is the 5th building actually which Lutyens designed, Baker and Lutyens designed. The other 4 are Parliament, Rashtrapati Bhavan in the North and South Block. The 5th, which is the National Archives, is supposed to be having 4 sections. So the first of the quadrilateral was made. The other 3 couldn't because the government then, and this was in 1920s, early 1920s, the government fell short of money, and then of course the Second World War, etc., then the whole thing couldn't get made. But the archives were shifted from Calcutta to this place, and some of the old stuff is really well preserved and kept. Once you, just give you one example, I got interested in Kashmir, and the whole Kashmir residency records, which are kept there, you take them out, and then you see how the British government actually very deliberately and very mischievously took away 1/3 of what currently is Kashmir on the maps, and it becomes very apparent. And so it was not that suddenly some coup took place and the Gilgit agency of Kashmir decided in favor of Pakistan. So all these files and files dealing with the death of Shama Prasad Mukherjee tells another story altogether. Or files dealing with because those days what used to happen was that either, I mean, I wouldn't call it oversight, but people were far more ready to disclose facts, and so therefore they would let the files go from various ministries to National Archives. Nowadays, what has started to happen is that we all start feeling that, God knows what is going to happen if the file is sent to the National Archives. So in the last 25, 30 years, the kind of files which we are getting into the archives are qualitatively, they talk much less on the policy front than what earlier used to be the case. And though we have a strong sense of documentation, etc., bequeathed. But after 1947, that whole approach to documentation of history is getting diluted, to my mind. And the reason is that people in the archives are losing out on the training, and there is less of focus on the archives. And this is not only with National Archives. The state archives are in much worse condition. I mean, I can vouch for what I see in the West Bengal archives, which has had a very strong tradition of documentation since pre-British days. But that's really seeing bad days. I mean, there's hardly any conservation or restoration, which is actually the need of the day, but perhaps the focus and the emphasis of the people who man these archives is different. It's sad, actually.
Thank you. So we'll come back to you again on the National Sports Museum, what the plan is. So I'll go to Praveer Bhaiya now. So Praveer Sinha, 1977 batch, CEO and Managing Director of the Tata Power Limited. Having a rich experience of 36 years. And we're very proud because he's the first Bihari to be the MD of any big company of Tata Group with a history of 150 years. So it's a really proud feel, Bhaiya. And prior to become CEO of Tata Power Limited, he was the CEO of Tata Power Delhi Distribution Limited, a private partnership JV of Tata Powers and the NCT of Delhi from April 12 to 18. So, Bhaiya, straight away go to the question of the TPDDL was a very important public-private partnership of Tata Power and the government of Delhi. What were the challenges you faced when you were the CEO and the MD of the company?
Thank you, Nishant. Tata Power Delhi Distribution supplies electricity in the north and northwest part of Delhi. Delhi, is a city where everyone is connected to someone, and stealing electricity is a right in Delhi. You have not reached if you are not stealing. Chaudhary aap nahi hai, yadi aap bijli nahi chori kar rahe. So that's the way it is. So one of the challenges that we faced was how do you, especially Delhi is also a city of slums. Delhi has nearly 800 slums, 40 lakh people stay over there. So in my area, there were some 223 slums, 10 lakh people stay over there. And this is the Majnu Ka Tila se leke, you name it, Indarpuri and all that, and Narela, Bhawana, Mangolpuri, all those places where you have the mafia and the gangsters. Now, this was a thing where, coming from Bihar, how can we allow mafia and gangsters? We are, in any case, we have seen that for many years, and no one can be bigger mafia than us. So anyway, what I thought that we need to do a little things differently. And how do you go and reach out to these people? How do you establish connect with them? And if you go and tell them that, I will not allow you, you will go on your 2 feet, but you will never come back on your feet. You will be lying flat when you come back. So one of the things that we started doing was connecting with the women from over there. So we started a program which was known as the Women Literacy Program. And we started in each of these clusters, each of these slums. We started the classroom program for them. And because what we wanted them to become our brand ambassadors, to go and talk to the people and see that the collection, the stealing of electricity does not take place. And over a period of time when I was there, we set up nearly 350 centers. There are some 20,000 women whom we train every year. Apart from that, we set up some 18 vocational training centers where 5,000 boys and girls, they are given training in different things, including computer training and electrician training, and also to the girls of beautician program and embroidery program. So you have now large set of people over there who are economically much better off and have the ability to pay. Secondly, you have these women who now represent you and become your brand ambassadors, and now they go and do the billing and collection and ensuring that stealing. So where we used to get something like annually 20 crores collection, now we get 150 crore collection because the women are with me. And so this was a big program. How do you train the women? How do you empower them? How do you encourage them? And how do you make them economically self-sufficient? So not only has this given them the pride and the self-confidence, but has also given them an opportunity to earn for themselves. So this was a very, very unique experiment that we carried out. And this has now been copied in very many other countries also in some places in India, that if you work closely with the community and you empower them, and especially the women, then you have a great opportunity to bring about not only social transformation, but also the business transformation that you can do. And that was the unique experience that I had when I was there.
Fantastic, we are superb. And you like the word that when a Bihari is there, you can't even think of stealing more and more things. So I'll come back to you again. So I'll go to Ranjanesh Bhaiya. So Ranjanesh Bhaiya, 1977 batch, presently working as Principal Finance Advisor in Central Organization for Modernization under Ministry of Railways. He was also awarded the Railway Minister Award 2002 for bringing transparency in contract management and reducing rates almost by 10% through successful and transparent contract management. Congratulations, Bhaiya. Great. And has been at different levels also in Railway Board. So the first question I want to ask you is, one of the success points was when you led the Ministry of Home Affairs, delegating to 6 pay commissions of grant allowance to paramilitary forces at par with the army. So do you want to share those experiences, please?
Yeah, Nishant, I joined the Police Division of Ministry of Home Affairs in 2004, and the infrastructure and facilities for all the paramilitary forces and IB were a part of my work detail. And this was one sore point that always came up in every meeting, where the paramilitary forces, their officers, and when one used to go to the field, their Jawans and the lower ranks, they always used to complain that we do the identical duties. I mean, of course, hats off to Army, they are doing a wonderful job. But these guys were working in similar territories and working on similar deployments. But there was a world of a difference between the allowances that the Army personnel got and the paramilitary personnel got. And this had been a point which had been going on with the 4th Pay Commission, the 5th Pay Commission, but somehow that was not coming through. And I had the benefit of being exposed to the actual working conditions of these people in the difficult areas through extensive travel that my seniors allowed me to undertake to the forward areas, particularly the line of actual control where Army and paramilitary forces are deployed side by side. And this story that built up through that experience, I consider it personally as an achievement, because this we could present very well before the 6th Pay Commission. And the chairman of the commission almost got sentimental about it. There was one funny moment also about it. Then he asked me, what allowances does Army get which the paramilitary forces don't get? So I started enumerating the allowances, and there's a cigarette and rum allowance that Army gets, which the paramilitary forces of course doesn't get. So मेरे मुंह से निकल गया कि sir, rum and coke allowance. So the chairman started laughing. He said, "You like rum and coke, is it?" So I mean, in front of that big crowd, I had to quietly accept that yes, sir. So and that made things lighter. Of course, that was not the reason why these allowances were agreed to. But when one saw it on the face of Jawans, when I went back again in 2008, and the commission had recommended positively, and the allowances finally came through in 2009 when I had just left MHA. So but in 2008 when I went to these forward areas, the Jawans, they seemed, some of them came and hugged me as if I was the agency. I was just one of the small functionaries. But since I piloted that team which made the presentation, so that was a big achievement for me. I personally always like remembering those days.
Super, Bhaiya. I will come back to you again on the railway part of it. So I'll straight away go to Raghvendra Bhaiya again. So Raghvendra Bhaiya has got, he conceptualized and curated the National Museum of Indian Cinema in a refurbished heritage building, Gulshan Mahal, and curated Desh Bandhu Chittaranjan Das Museum in Darjeeling, Tea Museum in Darjeeling, and curated the Craft Museum in Midnapur in West Bengal. So, Bhaiya, you have done so much into these arenas, and as you have curated the National Museum of Indian Cinema, and going further, you plan for a National Sports Museum, which once again, not only interesting, but also very informative. Can you throw some light on this, Bhaiya?
The magnum opus is something else. It's the Museum on Indian Prime Ministers, actually, which is getting constructed and concurrently curated in Nehru Memorial Museum and Library. And that is what is going to actually get inaugurated in March next year. So that's quite a challenge. But apart from that, this whole idea of a sports museum came to me because, we have this organization called the National Council of Science Museums. So this Science City, I don't know how many of you have seen it in Kolkata, is one of the places which has been developed. So I thought, why don't we sort of work in tandem with the Ministry of Sports? So I went and met Kiran Rijiju, who's a young sports minister and a very positive man. And I told him that, so what we need to do is that we need to mix sports with science and create a museum as also a center, where you could skill people. And once a pilot project becomes successful, then perhaps we can replicate this in other states. So we are planning to actually implement this here in the National Stadium, which is on the India Gate, and create a national science sports city. My initial idea was to do it in cricket, because I thought that if I do it with cricket being such a loved sport in India, perhaps I would be able to get enough sponsorships so that I wouldn't have to really spend much money from the government side. But the usual refrain of people around me has been that, look, cricket has taken care of itself, so there is not much need to sort of spend money on cricket. We might as well do it for other sports. I personally feel उसमें वही होगा, ना खुदाई मिला, ना विसाले सनम, ना इधर के रहे, ना उधर के रहे. So anyway, so we will of course spend sort of devote a major portion of our effort and exercise to cricket also, plus 3-4 other disciplines. And sports ministry is quite gung-ho about the whole project. So hopefully, if this experiment succeeds, then there'll be an element of science. And basically, I don't want government to do with anything in trying to run these places. So I'm keeping the government steadfastly away. It's going to be a public-private partnership where the public thing is just providing with the infrastructure. Later on, everything becomes sui generis. They have to sustain themselves. They have to find that's how the revenue model is being devised. So that once it succeeds, then the government has really, really nothing to do with it. And all the agreements, etc., with private partners would be such that even if there was a guy like me who had a sudden change of mind and wanted to sort of exert his or her influence or the government's influence on that particular project, we would not be able to succeed.
Fantastic way, but it's a great idea. I'm telling you, sports museum is going to be a great idea. I'll come to Praveer Bhaiya again. So Praveer Bhaiya, so you have done enough work into green energy and microgrid, and which is a great asset for future. And you have done work in Bihar as well. You want to share your views on this, Bhaiya?
Yeah, this is an area that I have been working for last few years along with MIT and Rockefeller Foundation. India has more than 600,000 villages, and the supply of electricity has always been a challenge, notwithstanding the fact that the government of India says that under various programs, electricity has reached the villages. And earlier the definition was 10%, now of course 100% household. But it does not still give electricity 24/7. In fact, people in villages tell me they get 24/7. They get 24 hours supply in 7 days and not in 1 day. So that's the definition of 24/7 in the villages. So we started working on a program that how do we reach and democratize the supply of electricity in villages on a distributed basis. And there was no other place for me but to go to Bihar. So I started with Vaishali district, 2 places over there, right across the Ganges. In fact, one of the sites, there is no road. So the only way to take these solar panels and the battery and all that was through the river. And the river, when it comes, when the floods is there, then only the river reaches the place where we, in that village. So we had to wait for the floods to come. And when the river was in spate, we took it over there and installed it. It's a unique program in the sense that it not only supplies to households, but also to all the irrigation pump sets. And a lot of other activities, commercial activities have come. The atta chakki, the oil expeller, the RO plant has come over there. The schools have started functioning. The primary health center in the evening can function because there is electricity. And the economic activity which has come. So what we have done is put a package of not only supplying electricity, but also developing the micro enterprise over there. We've now done 100 villages. We've done in Samastipur, Muzaffarpur. We're also doing it in UP, in Gonda district, Banerjee. And we have plans to do 10,000 villages in next 5 years. So it's a small step, but I do hope that, especially now that there are a large number of people who have gone back to the villages and have the unemployment challenge, can we create a enterprise or micro enterprises over there whereby they can do business activity and not only take care of their requirement, but also meet the requirement of that village and a cluster of villages. It's a project where MIT is supporting us in terms of a huge amount of technology that has gone into it in terms of how to make it cost effective. We've got the Rockefeller Foundation, which is supporting us on some low cost funding, patient funding on this. But it's something that in our program, we have a program which we call that universal access of energy and how to remove the energy poverty. We are doing not only in India, but also in some parts of Sub-Saharan Africa. So this program will be extended to the 49 countries in Sub-Saharan Africa once we are able to stabilize it and scale it up in India. So this is a unique project, and I'm quite passionate and committed to this.
Awesome, Bhaiya. Superb. It's a great vision, Bhaiya. Thank you, Bhaiya. I'll come to Ranjanesh Bhaiya again. So now, Ranjanesh Bhaiya, how challenging was it when you worked as EDCC and OSD of 2 chairperson of Railway Board and also the Secretary Railway Board? So another point of being an incredible Michaelite is the first ever incumbent from Finance Department on these posts. So congratulations for that as well. Can you share your challenges, Bhaiya?
Nishant, EDCC, the designation when expanded is Executive Director Corporate Coordination. But what you're doing there is firefighting management alongside the chairman. And you are practically his OSD without any protocol assignment. But you get involved in every kind of decision making, including the files that go to the chairman. And at the same time, you are also the bridge between the chairman's office and the minister's office. So it is a very taxing job, but very enriching at the same time, that you have a finger in every pie. What goes around in railways, you get to know, and you do get chances to make your own contribution when it comes to decision making on global issues. And it was quite a challenge because you had that was the time when we had the ministers dime a dozen. Mrs. Mamta Banerjee was there, and then once she moved over to West Bengal, then there was a frequent change of ministers, like Mr. Mukul Rai came, then Mr. Dinesh Trivedi came, then Mr. C.P. Joshi came temporarily, then Pawan Bansal came, again C.P. Joshi came. So I mean, with all varying people with varying temperaments, and particularly Mrs. Mamta Banerjee was very, very touchy about what public opinion her steps are going to cause. So I mean, it was a very cautious and careful move that one had to. I mean, one had to bring the chairman's ears close to the ground realities, because I mean, we were more connected to the lower rungs of the administration. And in those days, the very important projects of dedicated freight corridor and national high-speed railway, these were under, dedicated freight corridor had gone beyond the initial planning stage, but high-speed was right at that time was just taking a shape. So, and we were entering into major loan agreements with World Bank and JICA. So, I mean, one had to get into everything, and so, and there was no hours of working. I mean, late hours was also an understatement. And it was almost 24/7, because you had to get involved even in emergencies and accidents that used to take place. So, I mean, it was very challenging, very enriching at the same time. Secretary Railway Board's job is a more office-oriented job. It doesn't have much operational element into it, but you are sort of the guardian and the caretaker of the railway board, and all policy issues are the process of decision making is initiated by the Secretary Railway Board, and the board is like a baby that you have to nurture all through, including the establishment, which is the more painful part of it, because the establishment could tantamount to something like spread of coronavirus in the corridors of Rail Bhavan, and the Secretary Railway Board has to look after that also. So these assignments with very close proximity with the top management, they were very challenging and enriching at the same time.
Oh, fantastic, yeah. So now we come to the last part of our incredible Michaelites. We know about a school of 1858. We know about the legacy. The best part about we have got enough alumni associations in each city which are extremely active. We have got roles of many people in each city who keep all the Michaelites intact. There are this would be the only school where people would meet after 40 years with same zeal, and they all come at a place and they still have contacts. Not many schools keep so much thing, but St. Michael's has got this peculiar trait, and we are very happy for this. So the last part of our webinar is I'll go to everyone to give 2 lines of yours to the Alumni Association and these incredible Michaelites on a whole. So Raghvendra Bhaiya, I'll start with you. You're on mute, Bhaiya. Please unmute, Bhaiya. Unmute your.
Yes, sorry.
Yes.
I would really want to actually have a get together in Delhi. We have in Calcutta also we had. I'd like to actually have a great get together in Patna, in the precincts of our school. Well, that's a wish. I don't know if it came true. I believe some of us did have the opportunity some years ago to meet over there, but I somehow missed it out.
Fantastic. Praveer Bhaiya?
Yeah, I think one is that while we have a very good connect, we need to do a little more for the school. The scholarships, also the new technology areas where we can support the school. I think we have got a lot from the school. We need to give back also to the school, and there is I think a dire need also that we go back and give, not only in terms of funding, but also in other ways that we can support the school. I don't see that much happening in the school, and as alumni, it is our responsibility to do more for the school. I wish all of us put together could have done more during the Corona period also, but there has to be more of empathy and more of contribution that needs from all of us. I think we owe it to the school.
Great, Bhaiya. Thank you. Ranjanesh Bhaiya?
I for one would very strongly support what Praveer says, that the alumni has to now give back to the school also. It must be giving back earlier also. But since Nishant, you have created such an excellent forum that so many of they are there on the internet, and we are able to see each other, because you see mails and letters, they don't have the impact that this kind of a thing can have. And maybe this could be a forum where some meaningful intervention can come from the alumni side, exclusively for the good of the school.
Very right, Bhaiya. So as it was suggested by Nikesh Bhaiya on our webinar 4th, so he said that why can't we have a domain saying St. Michael's alumni.edu, and wherein we should all collaborate in this and do something very constructive. So at least the incredible webinar, the forum we can see that we can identify the incredible guys, the people who have done extremely well in life, at least coming on this. And coming days we'll be seeing more people on this. And obviously, once this the current pandemic goes a little down, I think we'll have some chance to create some arena wherein we can do something for the school. Very good idea, Bhaiya. Very good, excellent with everyone. Amba sir, you want to come in for the last recourse?
Well, yes. In fact, when we do something for the school, automatically, you do something for the students and the teachers as well. And, especially, the students, somehow or the other who kind of, suddenly lose their father, or, some mishap or the other happens, or, the poorer sections. I mean, like, nowadays St. Michael's also caters to a great, extent to the children, from the vicinity. Okay, so which means, like from the villages as well around, Kurji area. So yes, I mean, like if something of that kind could, be put into place, it would be a wonderful idea. And thank you so much, Ranjanesh and Praveer and Raghvendra. I mean, like you are incredible in one sense, but one common strand is that, you are incredible and yet you are incredibly humble.
Yes, fantastic. So, Praveer Bhaiya, we'll get back to you on this forum. We'll definitely do something on this. And coming back to the Incredible Michaelites, so webinar 15, which is going to be on 15th of November, we'll have Mr. Sanjay Srivastav, head of NIFT Patna. We'll have Mr. Nimesh Akhori, COO of WNS Group UK, and we'll have Mr. Anshul Jain, head of Wakefield India. So looking forward, stay tuned. And thank you, Raghvendra Bhaiya, for joining us. Thanks, Praveer Bhaiya.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate. And it is incredible Michaelites. All of them are incredible.
Exactly.
Incredible.
Exactly. And thanks, Ranjanesh Bhaiya.
Thanks, Nishant. Thanks, Amba sir. Great.
Fantastic.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Amba sir. You have always been
Bye.
fantastic. Thank you, sir. Bye, sir. See you.
Bye.
Yeah, stay tuned, sir. Bye.